in on the hurling action like we're used to, but we can get in on some exclusive offers from Renault. To celebrate their third year as official car partner of the GAA, Renault is offering a range of special offers exclusive to all GAA club members. So now you can take home the win right to your door. Check out renault.ie/GAA to find out more.
With Renault, official car partner of the GAA, taking the passion of a nation to a whole new gear.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lads.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Hi folks, and you're all welcome back. We're going to have a look ahead now at what promises to be a mouth-watering weekend ahead. First Saturday, Limerick and Waterford, and then Sunday, the old firm being back, and Cork and Kilkenny going to war in Cork. I'm lucky enough I'm going to be live for one of them anyway, I believe. So I'll be thrilled to be there, I have to say. And already there's texts coming in there. Is there any chance Dalo, the wife from Limerick, like this, it is going to be savage. But I think we're going to have 24,000 lads, am I right?
24,000.
Yeah. Which would be tremendous as well. We'd all love it was 40, but it's tremendous to be getting that kind of a total mark.
Yeah, but I also think that 10% of the tickets are for juveniles as well, which is a good idea. Because I'd actually like to bring the small now Charlie up on Sunday, to be honest with us. He's 8 now, so he might sit down and watch a match, So I think that's very important as well, because we need to spread the message to the youth as well,
Yeah, and I know this year has been kind of thrown into disarray, obviously, with the COVID thing and everything. We had to play quickly, and obviously it is an issue now. And we talk about that with teams playing again and again. And I'd be awfully disappointed to Clare not there at the weekend, but I think we'd be going for something like 5 out of 6 weeks at this stage, and 4 in a row like Waterford. And so, but the whole concept of this weekend of the semi-finals that has been brought in, I think, since 18, and I was against it. I was saying we're giving away a weekend's hurling, but I think the concept was changed and that there'd be no major football, and it turned in that 18 weekend teacher will live with me for a long time, because Clare and Galway obviously draw and replay, and the Limerick Cork match then as well, and I think it was sold to hurling people there and then, and I think it's a great concept, and I think next year when we go back to the round robin, I'd love to keep that semi-final weekend. We know we have a festival for the final anyway between the sevens and we all love going up. Maybe some people like to go to Leopardstown or Shelburne but it's that concept of buying another weekend exclusively for hurling. For me, be magic.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest, I suppose for all teams at the start of the campaign, I'm sure the message will be to get to this weekend. This is the one. You need to get in the semi-finals. The prize is great. So I said for the teams the weekend, I'm sure they would have all probably fancied their chances of getting here. I'm sure that would be the talk. That would have been a dream. So yeah, a little bit of pressure on probably everybody now. I do take your point about the road. I don't think, even though Landers is going to disagree with me, I don't think it's going to affect Cork as much, because I don't think that last weekend sapped the energy out of them. I think they were in a little bit of cruise control for a good bit of the game. The Waterford factor is bigger as far as I'm concerned. It's the 4th week in a row. But then again, a bit like the story you said there, Dalo, about going back training the Tuesday night before, are they better off? Are they not get the recovery in? The energy is up, the buzz is up. I'm sure they'll be mad for road, rather than a break and thinking about it. They might be as well off to get it on this week. So I suppose that's a challenge for the management team in Waterford.
Yeah, and Ken, we go with that one. Obviously, we go with the proper order. Saturday, huge repeat of the Munster final, repeat of the All-Ireland final, and now meeting in a semi-final. And I suppose, look at it, if we all stood back and looked at form, we all probably got caught up in the Galway form in the league. And look, we couldn't see the Galway kind of collapse in one way, I'm going to say, coming. But for me, the form teams coming in should have been Limerick and Waterford to naturally improve under the second year of the Cahill Bevan's access and players as well stepping up, and the likes of Gleeson really begin to hurl with that freedom we saw him develop into one of the best players in the country. So, but for this week, I'm just going to plant you in Liam Cahill's shoes, and we wouldn't have been in these shoes now, because would the last thing for me now, I'm going to shout out my take first, Ken, and I'll get to the last thing now you'd want this week is to be getting all caught up in the Limerick tactics that you did last year, and maybe bringing demons back into their mind from last year, if you know where I'm coming from. And let's rest up. Let's play the best Waterford hurling we can play in Cork on Saturday. And people had us written off 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think the psychological aspect for Waterford is a big thing. Beating Tip, you see, obviously down in Waterford today, everybody's talking beating Tip. First win since 2008, right? That's a big thing for Waterford hurling to beat Tipperary. So from that perspective, Liam has got to bring him in now to see him and Mikey and the lads and discuss, obviously, last weekend, but looking forward to for this weekend. The key thing from Liam's point of view is last year Waterford got certain opportunities. Tig de Burke then got injured midway through the first half, and Irla Daly came in to replace him. Now we have a situation where both Irla and Tig are out of contention to play next Sunday, which is a huge loss to Waterford. The central, those number 3, 6 positions, 20 is back, thankfully. And Conor Gleeson is back, by the way. He was missing yesterday. And I think sorely missed as well, lads.
Yes.
Conor Gleeson's a very good player. Waterford cannot do anything else, only have a cut off this, lads. The way they have played right throughout the last few weeks. They cannot go into that defensive mode that you were mentioning. Conor Gleeson is going to add stability there. I'm just so disappointed to hear that Daly's not there to play at 6, to release Shane Bennett as a bigger option up front for Waterford. The Mikey Kiley situation also is in the back of my head. He had a huge impact, lads, when he came in last Sunday or Saturday evening. He was absolutely unbelievable. He won ball in the air. He was abrasive. He was strong. He scored 2 great points. Montgomery came in, a goal and 2 points. You know, they all had a huge impact in the game in the way they came in and the way they played. Waterford don't lack. I don't think Waterford will lack for energy. I don't think they'll lack with fatigue or tiredness. This is exciting times. They're back into the fray. They're fresh. They're fit. It's better than mundane training sessions, waiting for 2 weeks for the game. I think, in actual fact, the less time Waterford have to think about this Limerick scenario, as you mentioned, Dalo, the better. But I am worried about the central spine. I am worried about Shane Bennett having to play at number 6, particularly against the Keane Lynches of this world, Morrissey's, Hegarty's, all those boys that are going to be up front for Limerick. So from the defensive perspective, I have a huge worry for Waterford. From the freshness perspective, even though it's a 4-game situation in 21 days, I think Waterford can overcome that, particularly with the guys they're rolling out that are coming in off the bench with the huge energy rate and the ability they have to play as well. So ability-wise, I have no problem. Fitness-wise, freshness-wise, I have a huge problem. The fact that their 2 ace centre-backs are out of action. That's going to be a huge, I think, disadvantage to Waterford going in when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and at boiling point, you know, and the chips are down.
Yeah, Mark, like, they scored a record amount. They conceded probably a record amount as well, though. Is that well founded with Ken? Bennett, for me, I think the jury's out. I just haven't seen enough of him there. And I thought early on, if I'm going to say straight out, I tell you, he was taking way too much out of the ball. Like centre backs hopping the ball off the ground, bringing it into contact, maybe getting away with it. And like, you know, if you bring it into that contact zone with them savages in the middle for Limerick, you would be turned over. I tell you, no matter who you are, Paddy Maher, Ron Maher, and Shane Bennett isn't as big a man as them. So, but then, as TJ pointed out to us, like, he changed his role a bit. He sat deeper. The 2 midfielders seemed to sit that little bit deeper. Baron early on was totally forward, sat a bit, and his 2 wing backs then excelled. And Lyons obviously gives a whole dimension going forward. Kieran Bennett at the top was brilliant. So maybe they change it up and maybe they have a different formula, plan B, if you like, defensively.
Yeah. like those three players now, Irla Daly, Shane Bennett and Kieran Bennett would be on most inter-county half-back lines at the moment. I think Waterford will be thrilled with how the three of them are playing in their form. Because one of the things for me, for Shane, is the fact that he missed 12 months hurling last year, that he'd be away farther down the line, Anthony. I mean, he played full forward for the first couple of championship matches, and then they reverted back to centre-back. Probably a necessity, a bit like Rob Downey with Cork, that when your Tyg de Burkers and your Ella Dailies are injured. And I'd say they made a decision on Austin Gleeson that he was probably better for the team to go into the forward line rather than play in the back line. They would probably get few more scores from him because Shane Bennett hadn't been scoring, and that was proved, I suppose, last weekend against Tip. And I don't want to put any grey areas around where the match is going to be won and lost and stuff like that. But, when you play matches in quick succession like this, injuries are a big part of it, and they're a significant influencer on where your team is at and what team you'll pick and what your tactics are going to be. So, we'll just have to wait and see how that'll pan out. But I think, yes, Waterford have momentum. They're buzzing. But, I think the 7 or 8 point victory flatters them slightly. I think if Tip got the 3 goals or got one of the 3 goal opportunities, it could be Tipperary, it could be in the final. I think fatigue is going to come into it. It has to come in, lads, at some stage. 20 days, 21 days, 4 championship matches. I think that's going to catch up on Waterford. And I also go back to the first 2 minutes of the All-Ireland final last year when Jamie Byrne, as far as I was concerned, was saying, welcome, this is Limerick now. Like, you're playing a real team. And Jamie Byrne, you have one chance now maybe to get back a little bit of vengeance on the boys who beat the living shite out in the first 5 minutes last year in the All-Ireland final and set the tone. But I think Jamie Byrne is going to come in for close contact again this Saturday. And I can tell you...
Hi, my name is William O'Donoghue.
Correct. And then when you move again, he hasn't moved, So I think Jamie Byrne is going to come in for a lot of close attention. And a lot of what Waterford are about is how Jamie Byrne plays. Significant piece of play here. It's next Saturday.
Okay. TJ, will you even bother looking for tickets and things now? You can carry a bit now. You'll hold fire for 2 weeks' time and go up for the final.
No, absolutely not. Dalo, I will be there. We're certainly enjoying this team at the moment, and look, we know it's not going to last forever, so we're living in the moment. The reality is, Limerick are sharp-eyed favourites. I know they're favourites to win the All-Ireland, and you'd say rightly so on their second performance in the Munster final. But look, I'm sure that these boys in Waterford will have plenty look at the first half as well. The big plus for Waterford, Dalo, and any team you're involved in, is their big players are playing well. And I suppose the form of Desi coming back 1-3 at the weekend, that's a big plus. The Bennetts are playing well. The midfield we spoke about already. And obviously Callum Lyons, Kieran, or the Bennetts. All their big players, everything they want, are playing well. The midfield back for me is definitely going to be significant. Jamie Byrne hasn't influenced the midfield against Limerick maybe in 2 games last year because of maybe being marked by Will O'Donoghue. Limerick's midfield was kind of a little bit all over it in the first half of that Munster final. They did seem to get the structure a bit right in the second half. How much of that was the tip, or how much did Limerick change? I suppose that's up for debate. But Peter Hogan and Jamie Byrne scored 7 points in play between the 2 of them last week, which is a massive return out of the middle of the field. That battle is going to be big. The other thing, I suppose, is the puck out for Waterford that Ken alluded to earlier on. Like, we have a situation like a Ronan Maher who's winning the ball and then they just had to change it. They mightn't have that luxury as forward as against a Limerick half-back line. So that's a key factor for them. It did struggle for a while against Tip in the second half. But I'm sure the boys will have a look at that. From a Limerick point of view, I think Gillan will start. And I'd say Dan Morrissey will probably be full back as well, right? Whether Ozzy's full forward or not with C. I think the rest of the team will be the same. Look, Dave.
So you've no Richie English and no Graham, you think?
I think it's heading that way. Look, the way the team they finished the last day. I think Gillan, for whatever reason they dropped him for the Munster final. I think he's done enough. I think they're a different team with him. I think he definitely will start. But other than that, I think Limerick will play as they normally play. That middle third will become very congested. Waterford do have pace. They do have runners. Like, they're bigger guys, and even as Ken said there, the guys who came on played a big part. Jack Fagan is definitely a massive handful. Going back to their Ireland final last year, they did seem to get their hand on the ball. So I think they will need to do that in order to cause Limerick problems. And I suppose the reality is the 4 weeks is a question. Like, 4 weeks in a row is a long time. But look, maybe they get the bounce factor. Momentum is huge too. So, look, I'd like the Limerick will just be in a better position. They have 3 weeks prep. Everything should be spot on for them. So, look, obviously, I think Limerick will have enough to win the game.
Yeah, and that's a huge, like, for me. No disrespect to every other team in the country. If you had 4 weeks in a row and then you were hitting and name everyone: Kilkenny, Tip, Cork, Galway, Clare. Do you know, anyone, you could be hitting them, but you're hitting the team that's freshest, that wants to go back to back. For me, that's the deciding factor. I'm going to go back to the puck outs, Ken. Just for about 15 minutes against Tip, they couldn't win a puck out of any sort that was hit long. Everything came back down the field. And I think Michael Dignan said it in his commentary that, you know, and he may not be the biggest fan of short puck outs, Michael Dignan, who would be a very modern thinker on the game, you know. But you could sense that Dignan was even saying, here, Sean, go short there and try and work it, because every time you lump it, it's going back down. And as you said in the review show, you know, you couldn't hit it down Ron Maher's wing. You couldn't probably go down the middle at that stage. Whatever bit of joy came the other wing. But at the same time, most of it was coming back all the time. And that's a quandary now when you're facing in to Burns and Hayes and Hannon. And TJ, you mentioned about players in the review show, like about Tom Brady. And Hannon is the quarterback in our sport. If Tom Brady is the quarterback in the American football. So it's for Sean O'Brien, there's got to be a puck out strategy worked on, Ken, hasn't there?
Yeah, and also you've got to give a goalkeeper that opportunity. I mean, we have a huge problem. And in fairness to Barry Horgan last Saturday, he had no one to puck it to, because we have no ball winner up front whatsoever. Since Bonner has left the scene and Niall O'Mara obviously out injured with appendicitis and whatever, we haven't got the ball winners to take the high ball. And it's an issue going forward that we have to address. So the same scenario arose. And funny enough, TJ mentioned his name there. Jack Fagan was replaced probably too early by Waterford. They wanted to freshen it up, but then they had no aerial threat up front because Jack Fagan can field the ball. Austin was carrying the injury, as Mark alluded to. When you have those guys missing, and Sean O'Brien looks down the pitch and he sees those guys, nobody looking for the ball.
No one's in spot.
Yeah, and the goalkeeping, Tipperary, it took Tipperary, 55 minutes to decide to push up on Waterford. Here we go. We've got to go for this game. We're 7 points down. We've got to go for it. So we all push up. And that's when Barrett and Paddy and Roland came to the fore. Big time winning ball. It's going to be a big obstacle for Waterford. Where do we hit now? Who do we hit? Jack Fagan's a critical man in that setup. So is Austin, Mark. So Shane Bennett going up front. Stephen Bennett, relatively quiet by his high standards.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Matt Prendergast, an elusive player at centre forward. So now they've got to go into a situation
made 2 goals.
Yeah, where are we going to win the ball? Oh, of course he did. And as nippy as hell. But where are we going to go with that puck out? So from that point of view, the Callum Lyons is the Kieran Bennett's, and hopefully if you're the Daily, from what I heard from Waterford, Mark, is that he won't be playing. But the lack of aerial threat, they need the Jack Fagans up front, they need the Austin Gleesons to have that avenue to go with, because as you mentioned, with that last quarter, Tipperary just pounded them into the ground on the puck outs. And Sean O'Brien, great keeper, he kept him in the championship, but relatively inexperienced at the level we're talking about in Croke Park compared to Stephen O'Keefe. So it is a big conundrum for Waterford, Dalo.
Yeah. So are all 4 of us going for Limerick? TJ said he is. I'd be going for Limerick. I just think it has to be a step too far for Waterford. Yeah. I've loved what they produced the last 2 weekends. The joy to watch, brilliant for hurling. Not being condescending anyway in that now, but I can't see a way for them to win this, and unless Limerick take their eye off the ball and listen to people talking like us. We're giving 4 votes to Limerick, so are we?
Yeah,
without doubt.
So. Okay. Lads, great feature writer with the paper, PM O'Sullivan. Dying the Wool, Ballyhale, and Kilkenny, man. Great article today, you know, and spoke about Cork and everything. But like, his last couple of, like, the mind games are unreal, like, you know, and Mark, you'll obviously be first to ask this out, but his last paragraphs are Cork are buoyant. Part of their inheritance, 16 barren seasons or no 16 barren seasons, remains an ability to hurl as favourites. Saturday evening now holds as case in point. Something is different, wave or tide. He's tried to tee it up that they're favourites, and I had a quick look at the bookies, and it evens your choice. And I was actually surprised with that, because I thought Kilkenny, after winning Leinster, and that would be, and Cork, as you pointed out, that they're facing in also to this three huge games in between
three matches
days.
and 40.
So like, is PM just trying to stir it up there? Like, is that buoyancy that's inherent in ye, is it back?
Sure. Look, with the under 20s winning the Munster Championship, and I said to last week, and they've had that. Last week was a massive weekend for hurling in Cork, because the seniors had won Saturday, the minors were out against Limerick on Tuesday and won. Then the under 20s were out Wednesday, they won the Munster Championship, and then our seniors won again at the weekend. So, like, look, there's no doubt that Cork hurling at this moment in time is really, really on the rise. And then, of course, throwing the two boys that brought the gold medals back then from Skibbereen as well, like, you know. So it has been a really good week there for all fellas Cork. But
even Reggie, your man Reggie, did you ever see Reggie, the fellow with the big pension on the Black Rock Road? He'll be talking hurling this week, I'd say.
Oh God almighty, unreal, isn't he? Yeah. So it's like you're going in against the old enemy now, and like we went in, I suppose, I won't say hot favourites, we were favourites the last time we played against them. The time Hoggy got 3-10. But we didn't play well, and we never looked like we were going to beat them on that occasion. And you'll be hoping the Cork are in a better place right now. They've definitely changed their style of hurling, and they've gone for pace. And it is the one thing, I suppose down through the years, Kilkenny maybe have struggled with pace, but their power is ferocious. And their ability to win 50-50 balls is probably second to none, to be honest. So I think it's contrasting styles in some respects between the two teams, and it'll probably be the team that'll impose their game plan and their own style of game on will probably get the result. I think evens your choice is probably correct, but I suppose we've mentioned all year long that we felt that Munster hurling is slightly ahead of Leinster, particularly with the form that we said Dublin didn't play well against Cork at the weekend, Galway haven't played well in the championship. You know, but you disrespect Leinster hurling then, and you know for years the Munster teams have been slashing each other, and Kilkenny were winning All Irelands. I don't know 100%, Anthony. I'm torn in this game to pick one of the two teams, but there will be two contrasting styles definitely, and if it'll go to a shootout, when you have, I suppose, we have a lot of fellas that can score. They have a lot of fellas that can score equally. Rob Downey and TJ Reid, it's the biggest game of his life, Rob Downey's. Sean O'Donoghue will probably end up picking up on Cody, I would suspect. I think the half forward line that Kilkenny have could have a big bearing on it, because I think they'll boom the ball down the top of our half back line. And, you know, Mark Coleman, I don't think he's set the world alight. I think he's been very solid. But this is a big one, and I do believe he is a quality player. There's no doubt about it. I think he's going to get a fair test this weekend. And like, you know, Kilkenny have proved that the lads they have coming off the bench as well have significant roles to play. And the one fellow that we haven't seen, and he's been on the team and on the panel all year, is Richie Hogan. Hasn't played any minutes yet. There's a possibility that he could see a bit of game time as well on Sunday. But it's too close for me to call it there. Contrasting styles. We'll just have to wait and see how it's going to pan out. But I think Kilkenny have had a nice look at Cork for the last 2 weekends, and there's no better boy than Cody, any selectors, to find a weakness or find a hole. We would obviously don't think there's any weakness in our teams. We're not naive enough to know that the best man in the business to find holes is Brian Cody, and he'll find them if they're there on Sunday.
Yeah, and Tej, there's been a kind of a constant narrative, I'd say, the last 2-3 years, maybe since the 18 match against Limerick, that if this Cork team could get back into Croke Park, and that the speed and the Robbie O'Flynn's, the Shane Kingstons, now the Jack O'Connor factor, like that, they'd be very difficult to hold. But then I'd be thinking about it last night and this morning even, and like, this is like a home ground for Kilkenny. Like, they train in Nolan Park, but they play in Croke Park. And that's the bottom line, like, isn't it? There's no team in Ireland more equipped, minor 21, senior, up along, all of them will come through, than going up to Croker. Everything down to Fine Arts, into the Crown Plaza up there on the north side near the airport, and down and to the usual. Maybe COVID has changed that routine slightly, but it won't faze them going to Croker, like.
No, definitely not. And I think I've said in the pod already that we're talking about Limerick and Waterford and Cork, and like Cody, like same in the Leinster Championship earlier on, we were on about Galway, we were on about David, and a big year was for them. And Cody just comes along and he wins the last 2 Leinster Championships without much of a fuss, and just has a little snigger driving out of Croke Park, and there's a kind of a touch of the same again here. We're talking about all the other teams, and he's consistently doing what he does best. And I think Mark had him gone there earlier on the show, and Dalo, he was going to be replaced shortly, like, yeah. So
everything has to change, like.
Yeah, everything has to change. Yeah. This is a difficult game to call for sure. It is contrasting what Mark said about the styles. There's a lot like Cork. There's no doubt their curve is on the way up. Even off the bench, where Connolly and Barrett and all these boys bring to the table is a positive for Cork. Then Kilkenny are the opposite, like the work rate and the savagery have Kilkenny, they just eat that up around the middle of the field. The chances that Dublin got in the early part of the game, what we touched on earlier, if Kilkenny get them, they could do damage. But I'm also going to flip that then by saying I think Cork's pace will trouble Kilkenny at the back. There's no doubt about that in Croke Park. So if there was ever a game that you could sit on the fence on, this is definitely one of them. I know I've mentioned about left dog in the past, Dalo, and like this game is definitely one of them, and which way I'm going to go.
This is one of the deafest dogs of all. Like.
It is. You could be calling a long time, like, yeah. So
you could be out around the fields looking for this dog.
Calling, yeah. I think that center of Cork's defence will have to continue working in order to make sure they keep these boys at bay. Like, if they go down at full back, I think he has to keep his trajectory on the way up. Bowman at 6 will have to have a big game. I think that they'll need to keep, because Kilkenny will get goals, as we know. So I think that was the deciding factor of the game. Cork have been scoring them all year. If they can keep the goals out for Kilkenny, they can get 2 or 3 themselves, that'll probably be the difference. But there's a lot of ifs there, as I just have said. I'll kick to Ken there and see what he says.
Yeah, well, Ken, a lot of it will be talk about, it'll be talk about TJ and Downey. But a lot of it will be talk about how will Kilkenny handle the pace. But I just thought against Dublin, I was really impressed with Hugh Lawler. I think Deegan, in some ways, is now the spiritual leader of the team from behind TJ, if you know what I mean. Tommy Walsh playing really well in the other corner, adds a bit of pace. I thought James Maher, the last day, really stepped on. Now, Sutcliffe caused him problems early on. He was put back to marking, but then he marked Sutcliffe in the second half and came up with 3 from play. And then you've Pádraig Walsh sitting in the middle there. I'm not so sure this thing, lack of pace and all that, is they're tough, hardy boys. We mentioned about Liam Rush missing Tim O'Mahony, and we mentioned about no tip fella coming to meet Kyle Hayes. I tell you, Paddy Deegan came to meet Lee Chin when he saw him coming at him. So look at Ken. I that might be overplayed, because Murph behind them then is probably the goalie, the go tough. You had to go Nicky, obviously, but geez, Murph, behind all that mashing like a sweeper as well.
Yeah, and he's not part of my fantasy team either, Owen, because of the fact of the way I picked the team. But coming from a Kilkenny point of view, and I've dealt with a lot of Kilkenny in my time, and of course I played Leinster College's hurling myself with Bohr, so I know the Kilkenny scene pretty well. Going back to the Colin Lyons refereeing performance, of letting the game go and flow, I think there's definitely when we heard the massive quote during the year, camogie has become more physical than hurling. I think that, definitely filtered through to Croke Park, and I think they've discussed it and said, lads, hurling is a physical game. We've got to be sensible here. We've got to let the game go. I think you're going to see two ferocious physical games this weekend coming up. Limerick are going to come in with their physicality, against a very fast Waterford team, which I've mentioned already. But Kilkenny, lads, Paddy Deegan, Brian has played with him a minute. Conor Brown, lads, another animal of a player, great pedigree. We didn't mention him in the middle of the field. I think Kilkenny are going to come with a ferocious physicality, a fair physicality to Croke Park. They have the aces in the pack, the Owen goals. Hugh Lawler becoming a top-class full-back. Pádraig Walsh, top-class centre-back. And, of course, all the guys up front, the Adrian Mullins of this world, the Owen Coleys, the TJ Reeds, Big Walter and Richie maybe coming in. Killian Buckley, lads, is only coming in as a sub. Killian Buckley's still in the prime of his career. A non-drinker, looks
Fogarty.
Looks the part. Conor Fogarty, battle-hardened, So, from that point of view, I know Cork have done very well. They got the win over Clare. They came back after the Limerick game. Cork, everybody's jumping out to say, come on, Cork, come to Croke Park, show us what you're made of, get to that All-Ireland final, reach the Holy Grail again. But from my perspective, I'm not going to sit in the fence. I'm going to say that this Kilkenny team will be preparing this for the last 3 weeks. I think they'll have all the matchups weighed up. I think James McGarry and co are very smart at the back, in the backroom team. I think it's just going to be a war of attrition. Who's going to come up on top of that? It's the guys that can snipe the scores. Rampaging Walter coming in as well, in the last 25 minutes to create mayhem in the defence. I think they're definitely a team in progress, Mark Cork. I think fantastic success at 20 level. I think they're coming through nicely. I think this could be a bridge too far. I'm just seeing a repeat of the 2019 All-Ireland semi-final, Kilkenny and Limerick. I think it's just going to come up like that. I think Kilkenny have one last kick in them, particularly the TJ situation. I'm not writing him off, but he is 34 years of age, still a fantastic player. Hoggy at the other end, coming up to 34 as well. Whoever comes out on top in those battles, obviously will have a major outcome as to the scoreline. But I feel, lads, Kilkenny, whether we like it or not, the Leinster lads are saying, shag these Munster boys. I'm sick of listening to them.
Yeah.
We're representing Leinster. We're representing the rest of Ireland here. We're going to prove a point next Sunday, and we're going to play in the All-Ireland final.
Yeah, I think Ken, you're off the fence there, and fair play. But I think the Leinster conference is not as strong as the Munster Championship. But I think Kilkenny are kind of an outlier for all the reasons and tradition and everything else. And Marco, what? Come on, I know even the is right.
Actually, listen, and like Henry Sheffield has mentioned as I go through times, like he's forgetting about Leinster, and
Jackie,
and I think that is probably the rock that we perish on, because the lads from Kilkenny fatten on that kind of talk, because they go about their business very, very efficiently, minimum amount of fuss, and they just get the job done. And like after winning, I don't know, 17 or 18 Leinster Championship won under Brian Cody, and they're enjoying it as much now as they were when they won their first one. So I think everything will have to go right for Cork, Anthony, if Cork are to win. And the big word again, and Cian Kingston keep mentioning it, the players keep mentioning it, is consistency of performance. And what you're hoping out of Cork is that they will bring that consistency again that we saw in the last couple of games. But I just think they might come up a slight bit short, Anthony, this weekend. I think the 3 week break will have done Kilkenny a power of good. And I don't think we can afford, like we gave the Dublin forwards, ample opportunity to put us away over the weekend. They weren't capable of putting us away. I think Kilkenny, if they get the same opportunities, will put us away, unfortunately, because their forwards don't miss chances. So for me, if we get a massive performance out of the team, and Hoggy gets up with another 3-10 and stuff like that, and the Jack O'Connors will set we have a chance. We definitely have a chance. But I think I'd be very, very fearful of Kilkenny just sitting on the grass waiting for us.
Yeah. It's a heart and head situation. So
Yeah, it is. It is like it is. Now, like for us we need 15 fellas to perform out of their skins, and that can happen. I've no doubt it can happen. But
you could see your supporters, Mark. You know, when the cameras went to the crowd, geez, you could see that fire back in the Cork lads in the crowd, like, and the fists were pumping, and you know,
and we'll be there. Look, people. I must say, I've got 3 or 4 texts there now since the weekend. How do I go about getting tickets? Like, you know, and these are people now that are not, we'll say, GA people in some respects. Like, you know, how can I get tickets for the match? So they want to go, but they're probably putting a social element to it as well. So, we need a victory. You know, Cork needs to be back in an All-Ireland final. I think, you know, whoever's refereeing it'll have a fair bit of pressure on them. Like, you know.
Kilkenny Fever need to be there every year. You do realise that?
Oh, sure, I know that. But come here, listen to me. They've been there too often now. It's about time we spread it around a small little bit. And it has been 16 years since we saw Liam McCarthy. So, and like the one thing I would say, like I'd love to see a Kilkenny Limerick final, right? I would love to see that now. But yes, if Cork got to the final against Limerick, there's a lot of demons that have to be after the semi-final defeat the last time, like, you know. I don't know. Would you like to play us, TJ, in the final in a one-off match?
Yeah, TJ. Who do you want to meet in the final?
Well, I'm going to be very political here, right? I'll know next Monday once we get over Waterford. We don't like looking ahead of ourselves. Our history tells us let's live in the moment and let's deal with the facts. We have to play Waterford, Mark, and until
after did you get ahead of yourselves? Did you get ahead of yourselves in other times?
We definitely miles, Dalo, miles.
The homecoming was planned.
I just think that Cork's pace will cause this Kilkenny backline problems in Croke Park. I think, as I said before, Connor is a game changer. Like, you just can't leave him in a one-on-one. You know the way the teams are playing with 2 up top, right? Like, just you really, really have to mind the house to a much better degree, because like when he goes to the afterburners and he's got goal in his mind, I think it's a game changer for Cork. So, like getting off the fence, I thought about this game, and I just think that this Munster form is ahead of the Leinster form, and I'm going to tip Cork to get over the line marginally. Maybe, as Ken said at the start of the show, maybe even after extra time.
And Mark, that is the death nail now with the way he's been going with the tipping this year. Limerick, like. And he might turn it around. Like I said,
everybody down to Penny Powell's. TJ's just tip Cork to win.
But like I said in the review show that he could come with a wet sail in this fantasy hurling and catch Ken Hogan down the stretch. I see he's nicely stacked with Limerick fellas. And a sprinkler, and he's Hoggy as captain as well. So
that's a big plus.
I'll tell you, Ken, watch your back there.
Yeah. I can see why he's back in Cork now.
From the banner point of view, Gary Spillane are not turning up on Wednesday night to play Clarecastle in a pre-arranged challenge match. But TJ's after coming off the Gary Spillane fence, so the Clarecastle vote is going to go for a repeat of 73. With a famous victory for Limerick after how many years, TJ? Back to the 40s, wasn't it?
It
was way back. And like I think the schedule might come against Cork. I wouldn't underestimate Cork though. And I mentioned their supporters a minute ago that if things start to roll for Cork, they could become an animal that is very hard to control. And I think they could, like, this isn't the greatest Kilkenny team, you know, in the last 20 years by a long shot for me.
But Dalo, that's the kind of matches, like, we know go back a decade, right? They had brilliant players, right? And then the whole narrative for the last 5 or 6 years, we're not as good as we used to be. But by Jesus, are they competitive? They'll fight in their backs tooth and nail. And you're right, TJ, that Jack O'Connor has lit up the season, right? And he's a game changer. Do you mean to tell me that they're having to call back this smart thing and he's shaving the fucking hurling now for the Jack O'Connor? Can you just imagine Willie O'Connor or Eddie O'Connor loving to see Jack O'Connor coming in like Jackie Tell?
They're shaving the hurley, but not shaving the face.
Yeah. So
John Power used to come in. I got the pleasure of marking John Power once or twice, and I marked him in All-Ireland semi-final in '97. All expecting him to go straight in with 11 on his back on Shawnee. You know, and I'm waiting for, I can't remember who even now, but next thing, the ginger lad from Callan makes his way over to me, right? And Jesus, I said, hey, whoa, this is in my think. Do you know back then now when the teams were named, you didn't see and we thought for Shawnee as well that he'd definitely be going on Shawnee. So I put out the hand, and when he caught my hand and he gave it a squeeze, lads, now, as if he was going to break, and he said, "Horn cats, lower the moan bar," into my face, like. And I said, Jesus, in the split second, I had to make a stand, like. Do you know, I'd either just pull away my hand and try and win the first ball, or I said, fuck you, John, well, I just shoved the hand back, and I said, you're backing up the wrong tree here, Johnny. And I was bluffing now. I'm going to admit straight out, I was bluffing. And I tell you, a combination of, I won 2 old breaking balls behind McMahon and cleared them as you only would that time. There was no sharp ball to midfield. He would try and hit Sparrow or get it up to Clancy. And next thing, Shawnee caught 2 puck outs in a row. And next thing, Nicky Brennan was running in saying, "John, centre." And I kind of was half glad that call was made. And I told him afterwards, I met him up in Cork Park after one of the big games of the 4-in-a-row team. And I just said to him, "John, you know how relieved I was to see you heading into the centre that day." I kind of waved in at McMahon to kind of say, "Best of luck now, he's gone off me." Like, you know, so, yeah, look, lads, it's what a weekend. What a weekend. I just can't wait. Like, it's just magic stuff. What a weekend. And I think I want to concur with Ken. I hope the 2 referees have a quick listen. Just, lads, we know, Colm, you had a brilliant game. Colm, you facilitated the best game, I think, this year. A lot of people will say Kilkenny, Wexford, but for me, Tip Waterford was the best game this year. You made that happen, Colm. We might be keeping out now about one decision, but we want to see that. Whoever gets the nod to do the game. So, lads, best of luck to everyone. Best of luck to myself and Ken are only looking on as neutrals. Best of luck to the 2 of ye, Latchy, cause I'll still meet the 2 of ye in Listowel anyway. So thanks to Reno, thanks to the listeners, thanks to Butler Hurleys for the fantasy sponsorship, and we'll see you all again next week.
With Renault, passion for what drives you. Official car partner of the GAA.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.